Good morning, everybody. Today, I'll be talking about The Last of Us, Episode 3. Long, long time. To start, I want to say that I am a fan of the games, even though I'm just starting the second one, and there will be spoilers. So if you don't want any of that, please do not watch it. And another warning is that I didn't put a lot of effort into this video since this is my first one. So, with that out the way, this is the review for the third episode because I don't even have a review for the second or first, which is fine. Whatever. I don't know. Anyways, let's begin. I love the beginning minutes of the episode since it's just classic Joe and Ellie going on their way to find stashed items inside a convenience store. As Joel is looking for them, Ellie goes underneath the convenience store to find an old box of tampons that, without hesitation, she takes, which I think is a big mistake since those boxes always have a warning and an expiration date. And for the box to be there for over 20 years in a moist and dark place, if I was a girl, I would not even dare to put any of those tampons inside my body. So, wow, why would you do that? Why would you do that, writers? Soon after, Ellie finds an infected that's trapped under the rubble and begins to cut him open with her knife in a really slow way, which was really creepy and really uncharacteristic of Ellie from the games, which could end up being a nice payoff at the end of the series, or it could make her look really unlike Ellie. But at the end of it all, she goes back upstairs. Joel finished up stashing the automatic weapon he stole from the guard from the first episode, and they go on their way to Bill and Frank's house. Cue the flashbacks. So that must have been my favorite part of the whole episode. How Bill is now home alone in his little town with no one but himself. And the best part of the episode for me was how he was going on all of these errands to, fortify his Bill town of sorts. And they were really fun scenes. My favorite scene must have been the Home Depot one, since I never seen one empty, and he was just, rocking it, which was really fun to see. However, the momentum that the episode had with Bill just by himself was soon no longer it, since he found some guy that fell into one of his traps. And, well, he fell in love at first sight. The careful and tactical Bill that we knew for less than 6 minutes had now become bedazzled by Frank, and with no hesitation he lets him shower and even has him set up a nice meal, which was nice. I mean, I would do that too. I'm not heartless. However, what I didn't like about the episode was how we were shown this Bill for 6 minutes only to have a completely different Bill right after Frank opens up to him and tells him how, he likes him, which was cute, but I honestly believe that the episode took too much time into developing this love story, which would have been fine in any other show or a standalone show. But then again, this is The Last of Us, not Bill and Frank. When Bill and Frank first meet, they look in really good shape. Like, in my opinion, they must have been in their late 30s or early 40s. But one of the things I did not like at all was that despite the apocalypse starting in 2003 and now happening in 2023, somehow both Bill and Frank looked so old. And in the flashback where Joel, Tess, Bill, and Frank are having a nice, cute dinner, it is really hard to believe that both Bill and Frank are now looking like grandpas when Joel is looking pretty good, you know? It really bothered me. Like, to me, it's just being controlling in a way that the writers wanted to make this scene look really sad. Like, wow, look at them age. They are really old. Well, they're not. Had Bill and Frank look at how they looked at the end of the series, I would have been like, sure, that makes more sense. That they were old people already, and now they're even older and they're dying. That's one of the things I didn't like about the episode. The writers just wanted to like manipulate the audience into thinking that now they're vulnerable and whatnot. And now on to the next point that I want to bring up is another scene that I did not like. So we have Bill set up as this survivalist before the apocalypse. He sets up all these traps for both people and the infected. And whenever he gets raided by humans, rather than taking shots from his sniper rifle in a hidden place, he goes into the middle of the street to begin shooting at the invaders, which by no means are they a threat, since his own traps are taking care of them, only for Frank to save him, in quotation marks, since technically Bill did not have to get shot at all. I don't know, it just goes to show how there's bad writing in this show. And I guess they also wanted to manipulate the audience into being like, oh no, Bill got shot. What are we gonna do? You know? I don't know. That really bothered me. Like, why would a survivalist go into the open against 4+ people armed? It just made no sense. Like, what? They were never under a real threat the whole time they met, besides the raiders that took care of themselves by Bill's traps. And it just makes me confused as to why many people were sad. Clearly, it was just bait. A bait to get people to be sad about it. Back to my point that I said, had it been Joel and Tess, it would have been actually sad. And my reason as to why I say that is because, in the end, Tess was bit. And she was under actual danger by not only the Fedra, but also the infected. Had Joe had a good goodbye moment or a proper kiss, even though he couldn't really do that because she was infected, that would have been more sad. But even in episode 2, that shit wasn't sad at all, because Joe just like straight up ran away and didn't even tell her how he felt, despite having been with her based on this third episode for a long time. So I don't know. I just don't have any faith in these writers. And they just want to make people sad. Just to, get them tears rolling. So that there's praise. To me, that's just manipulative behavior. So no, I did not like that at all. The episode ends with Joel and Ellie getting to Bill's house with no problem whatsoever, since Joe knows the way to his house without triggering any of the many traps that we saw throughout the episode. And Ellie reads the note that he left for Joel about how he can take all the weapons he can and the truck and all that. But it just felt empty to me, since there was no interaction between the three of them. which is a bummer. Since even though I played the game a long time ago, I remember that I really liked that section, especially how Ellie and Bill were interacting with each other. And even at the end of that chapter, how you can how you can find a note that Frank was bitten and he wrote one last letter to Bill telling him how he was sick and tired of his way of life. So it's a really different contrast between the show and the game, which was interesting to say the least. Not only that, at the very end of the episode, the one of the writers was saying how if they can make a better section of the game into the TV show, they're going to change it. And that would have been okay, like how I said, if this was a different show. But at the end of it all, this is The Last of Us, with Ellie and Joel as the center characters. Had Bill lived after the suicide pact was made, it would have been cool since, you could have still had Bill, all depressed and stuff, interacting with Joel and Ellie. But rather than that, we were left with nothing. In my opinion, it's just filler. I say filler because in the grand scheme of things, Bill and Frank are now dead. They had no impact in Joel and Ellie's story besides the letter. So we as viewers are now meant to believe that thanks to Bill's letter, Joel is now gonna have thoughts of caring for Ellie, even though he could be having those thoughts on his own merits through his own interactions with Ellie, which the show is currently lacking. Another thing the show is lacking at this moment is the killing of both Fedra people / Fireflies and the infected. In episode 2, they've only faced against 2 clickers. Both Tess and Joel. Well, Joel had an automatic weapon. It just seems dumb to me how the clickers weren't even aware of them, and they could have easily taken a headshot. But instead, they go into the, oh no, we missed all our shots and now Tess got bit. It's just silly, really. But I get it that for the sake of entertainment, they have to be in dangerous situations. But how come it's gotta happen that way when it's with Joel? But this time with Bill and Frank, they pretty much had a free pass on being in danger besides that one time against the Raiders. It's just silly writing, in my opinion. If I wanted to watch silly zombie show, there's The Walking Dead, since for the most part, they like to, have their own spin on things. But we're talking about The Last of Us. And even though the writers said that they were going to keep it pretty grounded and faithful, it's not been that way. But oh well. At least it's nice to, talk about it. I'm enjoying this. The following that I'm gonna talk about is the 2 sides of comments that I've read, which is really interesting since they are 2 extremes, and I love it. The first group of comments praised the episode because of how emotional it was for them and how they cried. And then the other one criticizes the lack of realism in the episode. An example would be how the water is still running after 20 years, or the lack of threat from Fedra or infected. And I have to agree with those points since, I don't know, It really is unrealistic to think that in a apocalypse type setting that raiders or scavengers won't be looking inside Bill's town from time to time. In my opinion, there should have been more action, more scenes of Bill and Frank defending their town from all sorts of things. Not just that really tiny scene featuring the out in the open fighting from Bill, which was silly. I also didn't like how people love throwing the you're a homophobe if you didn't like the episode, or if you have certain points you don't like gay people, or you didn't like the episode because seeing two men kiss each other makes you uncomfortable. And I just don't think it's fair, since for some people like me, I never enjoyed in movies, for example, or in TV shows when a couple is making love or kissing and whatnot, since for the most part it never adds anything to the plot. And for someone to simply pull out the you don't like gay people because you didn't like the episode, or because you didn't like some certain things from it, I just think it's really silly. And I don't know, like, the episode spent too much time on their relationship. And it is a shame that Bill couldn't decide to stay alone and let Frank go. It honestly would have been really entertaining to see Joel, Ellie, and Bill interact with each other. But it's a shame that it didn't happen. I still enjoy the episode, like I mentioned, and I love reading the comments about it, and I just wanted to provide my own opinion on the topic, since I don't know, there's just like some things that I just covered on here that really bothered me, like the tampon box, or the lack of attacks on the property. Or another thing I have yet to mention is how the Joel in the show, it's much more colder than the one in the game. And the Ellie that we have on the show is also really mean for no reason. I don't know. It's like they're trying to make the main characters as unlikable as possible. There has yet to be like a nice, wholesome interaction between them two, which is really sad. And I don't know. I honestly think that the show is either going to end on a really good note, or it's going to be a Westworld 2.0, since I love Westworld seasons 1 and 2. But then it just became really, really awful. But back to the topic. I honestly can't wait to see how the show further develops. Whether it's good or bad, I do want to provide my opinion on it. And if you're still listening to my voice, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry that there's not much quality, even though, if I'm being honest, I'm not really sorry about the quality. I just put, okay, so hold up. The truck that's in the video, the truck in the game looked really old, since it has been 20 years. So you mean to tell me that the truck in the show is still brand new looking? Like, that's just silly, you know. Anyways, have a good night, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it.